Hard to tune a carburetor when it's running on gasoline and oil.
Well, we got the Jeep back in the shop today. We're going to start on our modifications. Did a lot of stalling while we were driving it, so I'm eager to delete the factory fuel system in this thing and go ahead and get our system on it. Be one less thing to have to try and fight and struggle with. So this one, it looks like there's two brackets that come off the frame and kind of sandwich the gas tank. These little ears, and it looks like there's some mounts for some things, so I might have to leave these in place, which is fine. But getting this out of here will grant us a lot better access to the carburetor to make some factory adjustments.
While Jake's working on the front, taking off the old tank, I'm going to work on getting the new tank installed, which starts with removing the whip mounts and the little spare gas tank. Gonna fabricate some mounts right off of this top bar here to mount this tank to. And it looks like we need a bracket that is about 5 inches long. I'll go cut some brackets.
So about ready to take the fuel tank out. The shutoff valve is kind of down under here, past the filter. So I'm gonna put a fuel line clamp on here and just cut the line. It's gonna be a lot easier. Look at all the room we have freed up in our engine bay. Now we have access to all the wiring under the dash, a lot easier access to the engine.
We're just gonna tack weld everything for today until we make sure it's where we want it. We'll take the bar off and finish welding it later. Cover.
Next up to come out, so I'm going to take this little vacuum powered fuel pump thing. I'll get rid of this little hose and all this little stuff right here. And then we'll just plug the fitting here on the intake with just a little vacuum cap. There, we got that monstrosity out. Just another layer of complication gone.
We're investigating why the engine was smoking when we were running it. And the crankcase vent comes through this tube and went into the intake of the air filter. And this entire air filter is just saturated with oil. So it apparently was spitting. Yeah, it's clear. There's oil running out of the air filter. So apparently all the oil was going into the carburetor. So we're going to change that. We'll put a catch can and a filter on it and eliminate the oil going in the air filter.
While we were off camera, we finished up the fuel system on this thing, got it back together, got it running, and we did just kind of a short run outside, and the thing has run better than it ever has. Had good power. It wouldn't bog in third gear. It would actually start accelerating and pulling, but the longer we drove it, the worse the thing started to run. Just got worse and worse and worse. So to the point that the thing stalled on us and we could not get the thing started again. Checked our fuel line. We had good fuel flow to the carb. We tried to jet it because we drilled out the jet to a larger size. Still couldn't get it to start. We ended up buying another carburetor to try. And ultimately what we found is that when we were cranking it and choking it by hand, we saw some compression that was leaking around the cylinder head, and we decided to disassemble it and discovered that we had a blown head gasket. And it was one of those where the Jeep ran this bad since the day we bought it and initially tested it, so we think the head gasket was blown the day we bought it.
If you notice on the head gasket that was blown, partially why we think it happened from the very beginning, you'll notice that the areas that the head gasket blew out is very, very narrow between the opening for the head stud and the cylinder. and I don't know if that's because of the big bore of the 125. But anyway, where it was narrow is where the head gasket blew. So we decided to go ahead and replace the head gasket, and I looked up a torque spec and apparently remembered it wrong. So children at home, don't try to memorize torque specs, look them up, write them down. So I gave Jacob the wrong torque number, and as he was tightening the head bolt with the torque wrench, we were working up to it, it seemed like it was going awfully long. We broke the head bolt. You sure it was 20 foot-pounds? So what we did then is, this is the broken head bolt, and I searched online to find replacements, and I had a very, very difficult time trying to find actual head studs for this engine. I could find them generically for the 125 Chinese engines, but I couldn't find any specifically for the Coolster engine. I don't know what the difference is. So the ones I finally found on eBay, and even though the stud is broken off, we can still see that the new stud is 3/8 of an inch shorter than the old stud. And we mocked up the engine, it will not work. We couldn't get them to pull through long enough to even get a thread started. Now with this head gasket, we believe that the head gasket was blown from the very first day. We did not pursue warranty, being mechanics, and knowing that we were going to modify this anyway, we went ahead and just replaced the head gasket. We did a copper coating on it to try to help seal it. Then we ran into the head stud issue after we broke one because of my faulty memory. So we've decided, rather than deal with warranty, we could possibly file a warranty claim. We decided not to pursue that. We're not saying to do what we did. We're just saying we didn't because we had a different plan in mind anyway. We decided to go ahead, remove the old engine, and we're going to move forward with Plan B.